My name is Emily, and I am from the Colony, Texas.
I'm Toby. I'm from Longview, Texas.
We are expecting a baby. His name is Peter in like 3 weeks. My experience was just kind of my life in a lot of ways. I didn't really realize it was that kind of experience until I grew up and got a degree and was like, oh, could have put that on a practicum. But I always had families that weren't related to us living in our house. I thought that was a thing that everybody had because I was homeschooled, so I wouldn't have known how different I was until a lot later. I thought it was normal. I thought that's what you were supposed to do if you had a house, is to let essentially strangers come live with you. But it made life a lot more interesting, and I really just thought that's what my parents just loved to do. They loved people, so they just kept having kids and just kept having people come live in our garage and like all this stuff. When I got a little older, I got great opportunities to volunteer with a lot of nonprofit ministries, again because I was homeschooled. That was where my socializing experience came from, often was homeless people, and that kind of like pushed me towards my passion of eventually what would be getting a degree in sociology and religion, because I wanted to help people but with a purpose.
Yeah, so I grew up in foster care. I personally really feel like my mother and my family could have really benefited from something like this had it been around in the location where we were. I can certainly see the benefit in what we're doing because I know what it was like to be in a place where I needed help, not because I had necessarily done anything wrong, but because I just needed someone to care enough. And so I think for me, like, that's where my story really feeds into what we're doing here, is I want to be someone now who can just be someone who cares. When we found out about Shepherd's House, it just suddenly made a lot of sense because not only was it a place for us to live and to sort of start our family, it was also a place for both of us to pursue something we're both passionate about. We both really care for vulnerable people, and we really want to be a part of helping those who are not necessarily in a position to help themselves at the moment. So the idea of helping single moms and women get back on their feet and get back out there and live independent, productive lives is something that we were both very excited about.
I think the easiest way to minister to people is by being with them every day, doing life with them, giving them a redemptive family experience, even if it's coming from people who are younger than you, just someone who's there at the end of the day, someone who's there who will listen to whatever story you have, no matter how dramatic or traumatic it is that day. So I guess I'm really hoping and praying people leave, however long they stay, Shepherd's House with is a wholesome family experience, one that can kind of change their mind about what it could look like in their life in the future, whether they've had a really bad experience in the past. That's my personal hope.
That was actually my first thought too. My first thought as well was family. I want people to leave thinking that they have found something that they didn't previously have. Or maybe they did have it and it was just a little broken. So maybe we can show them what a mended picture looks like.
My little kid dream of a house that we will lock the doors, but a house where we don't lock the doors and people are always welcomed. And when you come in, you're always encouraged. And there's always a place for you, even if we only have a few bedrooms at a time. I really do trust that God is going to put the right people in this house. He put us here for however long, and that has felt really God ordained this whole time, undeniably, even whenever I am stressed out about it or we're still building it or that kind of thing. And I know that most likely every other woman who's going to come along here is not going to think, oh, this just makes perfect sense in my life. But I know they'll feel that sense of this makes sense for them too. I guess the big picture is that we get a human way of living out the gospel and really meaning what we say when we say we're believers or we read the Bible and say this is what it looks like to love people, because welcome to my mess, you are a part of us when you're here. I think we also have made that fun slogan that we're gonna tattoo on the house of leave your plans at the door. That's my big dream, because that's my dream for my own self, because that's what God is asking me to do right now. But I hope that it's a encouraging, safe place that you can leave your plans at the door and let God and your new family change you into what He wants you to be while you're there.
I think my biggest dream is that this is a small part of a lot of people's really big stories. And what I mean by that is I don't want the defining moment of people's lives to be Shepherd's House, but I want it to be the moment where the definition changes. I want it to be a moment where whatever situation got them to that point, that they can transition out of that, and that what comes next is so much bigger and more beautiful than anything that came before, including Shepherd's House.